Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Dodgeball Podcast. In this episode, I finally get to sit down and interview Dominick Borgia. And did I say it right?
Yeah, you did.
Awesome. I know I don't spell it right, and I don't know why I keep doing that, man. But help me out here. Like, how am I missing your name here?
You know, everybody spells it without the K. It's just a common way of spelling it. I've been called Dominique, Dominick. Everyone spells it all different ways. And honestly, I know you're trying to say my name, so I get it. I'm like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, it's close enough, for sure. Well, cool, man. Well, I mean, shoot, I wanted to interview back in October when we did the Worlds recap, and I knew this would be one I wanted to pocket for later. And if you guys have listened to the Dodgeball Tribune recap at this point that I launched Wednesday, you can tell I'm still trying to get the cobwebs off. But man, you've got so much to share. I just want to dive right in, man. Let's just start with what got you into dodgeball. Let's just start from the beginning.
I'm probably one of those people who got into dodgeball because of the movie. I played kickball, and kickball just was never enough of a workout or an exercise or anything for me. And then I got into dodgeball, and I actually played my first tournament per se was actually a radio hosted tournament in Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach. And it was foam, which I don't like foam. I'm sure that'll get asked at some point.
More to my army.
Yeah. And so it was a 6-on-6 tournament. You had to have, just like co-ed, you had to have 2 women and 4 guys. And my team, I only had 4 guys, and then they had 1 woman free agent. So the entire tournament, we played with 5 people. Everyone else had 6. And we ended up coming in second. I was the last man on, and coming out, when you're in Florida and you're standing outside in a skate park and it's hot, you just, by the end of the day, I couldn't see where the balls were coming on, who was on the court, and I tried to catch, and it was just bad.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to realize the humidity must have been a pretty bad deal.
Oh yeah.
So you said 2000. I mean, okay. So you said the movie. So that has to have at least been 2004.
Yeah, I actually trying to think if I wrote down the exact date. Let's see here. No, I didn't write down the date. I actually found the footage when I was going through a hard drive looking for stuff. I actually found the footage. I could probably go on YouTube really quick. Let's see if I could find it so I can give you an exact date. Let's see. Buzz Dodgeball Tournaments. So it was 10 years ago. Or 11 years ago. So 2008.
Okay. So this wasn't immediately after the movie. It was just one of the, I guess, flashier tournaments that you played in? You said it was radio hosted?
Yeah.
Okay. So did they, were there DJs there and they were just kind of commentating as the event was happening?
Yeah, pretty much. And they had, the first prize was a trophy, was a jock strap.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. So, they poke fun at it. It looks like it was 11 years ago. So,
okay.
That's a while ago.
That's probably...
I think they ended up doing the tournament 3 years, and I played in 2 of the 3.
Okay. That's probably something I'll have to submit to Bill's dodgeball database, because I think he's just collecting anything and everything that has to do with dodgeball. And if you got footage, that's awesome. And it helps build the timeline. And I do want to go back further, though, because you said the movie kind of got you interested. So did you play back in 2004 prior to this tournament?
I did not.
Was it just kind of...
We didn't have... So a lot of people don't know. We didn't really have dodgeball in Florida. It's just not a thing.
Right.
And so when I had moved back to Florida after leaving California, and I want to say 2014, 2015, dodgeball, there was a league. It was called Joymo. But other than that, dodgeball was virtually non-existent.
I can't imagine that. That's rough.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy to think now that dodgeball's growing. I know Clay and the Geos are all trying to help Florida grow. They do an open gym in Tampa. There's now the league that I helped start in Florida now has like 8 teams in it, I should say.
Nice.
And, it started, we barely had 3 teams. I did a charity tournament for my friend to try and raise money. And because I had friends playing already, I barely had 4 teams.
So you had to.
So it was really hard. I learned the hard way.
You had to conscript your friends into service and get them to play.
Essentially.
So does it have this league? Does it have 8 teams now? Like this is what you run? Like.
So when I was there, I passed it off. I passed the buck to one of the other guys, and
Gotcha.
So currently I think there's 7 teams. It's called Red Ball.
Okay.
Down in Fort Lauderdale, they play on Wednesdays. Jessie from the West Coast, she actually moved to Miami, Fort Lauderdale area, and she plays in that league.
Okay. That's awesome, man. I mean, I can't wait to get into the whole film aspect of what you're contributing to the sport, but to be able to actually bring dodgeball into the fray yourself to help it grow, that's really cool, man. That's not easy.
Was really awesome. No, it definitely wasn't. I will say to anyone who's, doing their own league or anyone who's trying to get a league started, meetup.com was very, very helpful. We used it a lot, and we use it up here in New York all the time. So anyone who's trying to help build a league, we offer up here in New York, I play with Sandlot, and we offer like open gym, and if it's free for the first time, now in Red Ball, I don't think they do free. I think they do one night. So like we do one night before the league starts where it's free, and we post it on Meetup, and we get tons of people. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, we actually don't even play on a basketball court. We played on turf. Played an indoor soccer field.
I've done that before. It's fun.
Yeah, let me tell you, sliding on that's way more comfortable than a basketball court.
Yeah, I would think so. Just because it's just it's turf and a little easier on the body. You can do a little more crazier acrobatic moves and diving and all that good stuff. But so let me. When did you first start playing dodgeball? Was this 2008 then? Like that tournament was the first experience?
Yeah, that's probably my first like big experience. I played those tournaments. I played on a cruise, like Royal Caribbean does dodgeball on their cruises.
I've heard about this.
And then after that, I didn't really play dodgeball until I moved to Los Angeles.
Okay. Well, real quick, so like you saw the movie, you thought it was interesting. Did that just make you want to play, or did you kind of just like put that in the back of your mind and say someday? Like what was...
I actually I think I Googled it to see if there was any dodgeball leagues, and I couldn't find anything.
Right.
The only thing I ever found was like kickball leagues.
Gotcha. And you're saying those weren't really like active enough for you or interesting enough?
Yeah, I liked kickball, but it wasn't my thing. Like you don't get that activity level because when you're in the outfield, you're just standing there, and it's like, all right, I'm gonna just stand here, wait for something to happen. You get to kick, and if there's a big team like Waka, they have a lot of big teams with like 20 players on them. You don't get that time. So
I mean, it's like baseball too. Unless you're pitching or batting, you're just kind of waiting for something to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. At least with kickball, you can kind of drink while you play. It's like the only saving grace. Well, I kind of like. Just kind of take me what was going on through your mind. So like you go to this radio tournament, you play dodgeball. I mean, what did that feel like? Was it just pure bliss? Was it, I mean...
It was really exciting. And back then, I think I understood the game more than most of the people at that tournament, because even back then I comprehended that you have to throw together as a team. You have to work together as a team, because there were some big guys throwing, like huge muscular guys. Like one guy, he was prided on the fact that they could throw really hard. And I told my guys, I remember specifically telling them, like, guys, just because they could throw hard doesn't mean a thing.
Right.
And we ended up, getting second, which was pretty awesome.
So, yeah, because you're taking me back to, and I don't know if you've heard any of the OG episodes, but like we talk about how chaotic dodgeball was and how like most of the time is all about, hey, let's just throw as hard as we can and hit people. And now, post maybe 2012 at best. You see strategy, you see more tactics, and you see like more of a rhythm towards the game. But for being able to hop on for your first time and kind of acknowledge that from the get-go back then, that's pretty impressive, man.
Yeah, and here's one thing to note, which I forgot to mention. That tournament had if you catch the ball, the player's out, but nobody comes back in.
Huh. So no regeneration?
Yeah, no regeneration. It was you either get them out or you don't.
That's awesome. So, was it just like the exhilaration of people throwing crap at you, or was it like a team dynamic? Have you played sports before? Like, what hooked you?
So I played a little bit of team sports. I didn't really grow up playing sports. I grew up a huge wrestling fan, and I wrestled my senior year of high school. I played Little League when I was a kid, but I wasn't an athlete. I was a little fat kid who played video games, and I never played sports. I didn't have the athletic ability, and I really enjoyed playing dodgeball and kickball. I think I really fell in love with the sport when I moved to Los Angeles.
Gotcha. So like your experience in Florida got you really interested, and then Los Angeles like solidified that for you then? Is that fair to say?
100%. 100%.
Have to ask, man, who is your favorite wrestler? Or who is your favorite?
Hands down, The Undertaker.
Nice. Yeah, he's all right. I mean, I had a brief phase of where I watched wrestling in freshman year of high school, and I got kind of sucked into it, and I liked The Rock, Triple H, and all that crap that was going on between Undertaker and Kane, but we'll have to discuss that another time. This is about dodgeball.
I could talk about wrestling for hours.
Yeah, so. Let's just talk about wrestling now. Let's forget the rest of the podcast. All right, well, let's talk about LA then. So what really solidified dodgeball for you then, and what brought you out there, and when, like time-wise? Give me a timeline.
I went through college, I worked my way through college, and I finished in 2010 and packed up my things and moved from Florida to LA. And I actually worked retail, so I was working like 7 days a week. And then one day I realized I had Mondays off, and I found out about WDS. And so I played on Monday nights. My first team ever was the Dodge Fathers. And I realized I was actually good at a sport. And I was like, wow, I'm actually good at this. And, after that, I joined Throwbow Cops. Pew, pew! And, shout out to, them. And the captain was Jonathan Whipple. And, he really got me into it and really, taught me some of the aspect of the game that I didn't quite understand and know. And, that really took me to all right, I really enjoy this. And yeah, I got hooked. At one point when I was in LA, I was playing 4 nights a week, and I was like, oh my God, I'm exhausted.
God, I hear about those days. And cause we would go, play in Vegas, and we'd run into the LA guys and oh yeah, we can play dodgeball every night of the week. And being young back then, I was so jealous of that. But the thought of that just kind of makes me cringe a little bit.
I wish I would have gotten started in Elite and playing more competitive when I was younger, because my knees are done. I gotta be like Serge and Vince, where I've heard both of them say in, I believe, your podcast, that they both have to change their style because they want to protect their knees. They have families. I really need to learn to adapt myself on that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Serge definitely talked about that. Haven't had Vince on yet, but it's just like you said, you got to think about preservation. You want to be able to play next week, so you can't go ballistic like some of these young kids do.
Yeah, definitely.
So okay, so that makes sense. Because I don't want to say I didn't know you until recently, but for me, it just appeared. It seems like you appeared on my radar last year with filming, and I think we kind of talked just a little bit when you're talking about your documentary. But it sounds like you have more of a LA background than you do Florida. Is that correct?
Yeah, when it comes to playing dodgeball,
right.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And Throwbow Cop. I mean, I've heard that team name before a few times. Do they play in any of the National Dodgeball League tournaments or?
I think they brought a team once or twice. But I don't think so.
Gotcha.
They may have gone out to Sin City once or twice. So most of that team when they played Elite was Valhalla.
Okay.
A lot of those guys.
With David Tates back when he was on that team?
Yeah, David, Christina Wong, Carly, the Whipples, Cliff.
Cliff Ferry?
What?
Ferry? Cliff Ferry?
I believe so. I believe that's his last name.
Okay. His name has been popping up a lot lately.
And Joe Grant was on that team. Sergio Leon was on that team.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, this is what, 2014, 15-ish?
Yeah, I moved from LA in 2014. So this is probably 2013, 2014 where I'm really getting into dodgeball.
Gotcha.
And I didn't actually, and right before I left was definitely 2014. This is how I got and learned about Elite. I played WeHo 8.5 with Jake Mason.
Nice.
And I remember it was tournament style, and I remember seeing Vince and a lot of the Elite, like Doom, and a lot of the Elite players playing off to the other court. And I want to say Jonathan was telling me about the Elite players, how they can get hit in the face, and like that always like intimidated me. And I just really enjoyed playing the 8.5 in that WeHo league, which I don't even think Jake does the WeHo 8.5.
I can't remember the last time, if at all, he did 8.5.
Yeah, I don't think he does. I think that's when, like, and I'll tell you, when I played one season, or I subbed a couple times in WeHo, and I was a little intimidated because they could throw really hard, and there was people getting hit in the face, and I was like, wow, like it was a big adjustment for me,
right?
Going from the rec level up to that, like I felt like the next level.
Gotcha. But you still, you said you're still kind of drawn to Elite though, like you still participated?
Oh yeah. So I, after I'd moved to Florida, I talked to Lisa, I want to say Reinbacher is her name.
Right. Reisenbacher?
Yeah. Yeah. And so I ended up playing on her team my first 3 Elite seasons, which was, I want to say, New Orleans, Nationals, Boston. I want to say there was another one.
It was Vegas, New Orleans, Boston. It was just now Minnesota? No,
Minneapolis. Maybe it was before. And I remember we didn't go to Nationals.
I see.
But I had played 3 seasons with them, and then I went to Nationals. My first Nationals was actually Boston last year.
Okay.
So I'm still relatively new to Elite in general.
Gotcha. Yeah, this is bothering me. Let me think for a second. So 2014, Vegas. 15 was Vegas. 16, I want to say it was also Vegas. No, 16 was New Orleans. 17 was Boston. And 18 was Minneapolis. Okay, that's just for my own sanity. I was like,
no worries.
Okay, well, so let's go back. So, I mean, you said you're kind of intimidated by these players, then you got to actually hop on Elite. Like, what drew you to it? Like, what made you overcome that fear and decide, like, no, this is where I want to be now. This is where I want to compete?
I don't know. I don't remember. I just remember enjoying it. And, you know, I want to say my first major Elite headshot was I had traveled to Chicago, and I don't even remember where they played, but I remember traveling to Chicago, and the first game I played in, I got pelted right in the face with a dodgeball, and like my glasses snapped in half because that was before it was recommended you have, goggles and stuff, protective eyewear. And I had to use like finger tape and glue to piece that all together. I know when I played Dodgeball. Hold on, let me look this up. Let me see if I could find it. My first Elite tournament was when Elite tried to expand to the Southeast. That was my first ever Elite experience. I met Glenn, Team Davis, Dodgetronic, Benny, and a lot of players there. Sergio Leon actually flew out from California to go up to Jacksonville. It was in Jacksonville and play in Jacksonville.
Talking about Dodgetronic Supersonic with Ben McCoy.
Yes.
And we were talking to him, I think during the first South recap, got to know some teams and personalities during that time. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, they tried for the Southeast, but it was hard.
I think I vaguely recall something like that. And I mean, I'm good with 4 regions right now. I think, little segue, I think if there's going to be another region pop up, I would say it's the Pacific Northwest. How about you?
Yeah, I would agree. I would definitely agree. I mean, the West has a lot of players and teams.
Yeah, we're a little saturated, but maybe we can table that for another portion of the interview. Don't want to get too far off.
Yeah.
So I think sorry if you said it already, but what teams did you play for in Elite?
So we changed our name like 3 times.
Okay.
So my last team that I played for in Boston was Mid-Atlantic Mayhem.
Mid-Atlantic Mayhem. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to see pictures of that. I'll bet, and this always happens, if I saw like pictures back in the day, I'd be like, oh, okay, I know exactly what you're talking about, or I remember that jersey or that look. So, did you ever get into trampoline dodgeball at all, or UDC?
So the guys in Fort Lauderdale, they, I want to say 2015, 2016, they really wanted to go and play trampoline, and they didn't have enough teams, and they begged me to help bring a team so that they could qualify. We brought a team. I absolutely hated trampoline. My knees don't like it, and I get really nauseous on that thing. I don't know why. I am not skilled at trampolines. And so I helped them qualify, and then they didn't even go to the tournament. So that kind of annoyed me.
After all that.
Yeah, after all that, I was like, you jerks.
After I sacrificed my body for you, did something I didn't even want to do. So this is a new question. I just realized, kind of going through the notes, and since we're trying to focus, I'm trying really hard not to veer off into other stuff. So,
oh, it's okay.
What do you have like a significance in number? Just out of curiosity, like what was your number? What is your number, and why?
My number is 82, just because it was the year I was born.
That's fair.
The other number I use is 28, my birthday.
Nice.
Nothing exciting with my numbers. My nickname, however, is different. But
what is your nickname?
My nickname is the Pope. Jonathan Whipple actually nicknamed me that because he was actually collecting nicknames from all the players to get us like jerseys, and I'm like, I don't have a nickname. He goes, your last name's Borgia. We're gonna call you the Pope. And I'm like, all right, I like that because my family history has, a Pope in it, and very evil side to the family. And I was like, all right, I like that.
So there was a Pope Borgia once upon a time?
Yeah. There's actually a Showtime show, or there was, about the Borgia family because ancestors like poisoned people for power and all this really crazy stuff. Which is
you don't express any of those traits, do you?
No, definitely not.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into your strategy then. How would you define your style of play when you were playing Elite, and like what would you consider yourself, like a defensive player, offensive, catcher?
I would probably say I'm more of a catcher, and I'll stand in front of the ball so you don't get hit. Like a self-sacrifice. I
was gonna say like a tank. You just like absorb all the damage for your teammates.
Pretty much. Like if there's a stronger player on the team, I'll take the out to keep them alive.
Gotcha. So you're more in it for like the team aspect, and
definitely
literally willing to take one for the team.
Yeah, definitely.
What if it's like Payan throwing at you, or Vince?
I mean, I actually don't remember. No, I did play against Vince. Vince didn't kill us, thankfully. When I was in Boston, I remember playing, and we actually were super excited. It was co-ed, and we actually got one game on Doom, and like Vince knew that we literally were a brand new team, so he didn't like kill us. And so he went easy on us, and we managed to get one off out of them. But he didn't peg us too hard. Thank God for that.
Yeah, that's kind of events if you're listening.
Yeah.
So
I've gotten a face shot from Billy Schmidt though.
Yeah, he'll do that, and I wonder
that hurts.
I wonder if it's like intentional, or if it's just because he's like 9 feet tall and he can't help it. Like,
honestly, I think it was because he was 9 feet tall.
Yeah, I think for most of us, he's just aiming for what he thinks is our knees, but it's actually, neck level and above. Or he's just a mean person. It could be both. He just reminded me of a question. I was about to lose it, and I got it back. What is your favorite style ball then? So you said you hated foam, which is the right answer. So
foam is my least favorite. My favorite's 8.5. I love 8.5.
Good man.
And then I like the type that nobody likes.
You're going to say cloth, aren't you?
Yeah. I love cloth.
All right.
It's fun.
What and I'm actually glad you brought that up, because I completely spaced the fact that you just came back from an international tournament, about a month ago?
Yeah, in the beginning of January. Actually, literally a month ago from now.
Let's talk about that a little bit. So what was that? What was the team name? It was DNA, right?
DNA.
Dodgeball North America?
Correct.
Pretty awesome acronym.
I don't know if you have from the fan requested questions, but one of my teammates actually said, it was Quack, which is Jeremy. He said, when people see you on the street, why do they yell gonads?
I was wondering about that, and I was wondering if I was going to have to edit that.
So originally the team was North American Dodgeball, because we had some Canadian players, we had some of us from the US, and so we didn't want to just be US.
Right.
And we were definitely the unofficial team, and I didn't want anybody to be like, "Oh, are you US Dodgeball? Are you USA Dodgeball?" I do not want any controversy. I tried to stay all away from that. So, it was a lot of fun. They were very excited to have players from the States come over and play their style of dodgeball.
And so what was this tournament exactly? Was it like an invitational? Like what?
So it's the British Open. It's basically an invitational that all of they're called clubs over there. They actually don't have leagues like we do here. Huh. They have clubs. And so the club is essentially a team. So say Rise was a club. They would have multiple teams within their club. So it'd be Rise 1, Rise 2, Rise 3.
Okay.
And as you progressed, you'd get moved up to the different teams.
I see. So like they have like their A squad, their B squad, and like their C squad, so to speak, or?
Correct.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it was very different.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of how. So when I ran Tucson Dodgeball, like, we had like Team Evil, like we were like the best, and then we had Rock and Rollers, which was like close second, and then we had a couple of like offshot teams. But it was kind of like the same mentality, like it was like a feeder system, and we could have just been very easily called Club Tucson. So I could see a lot of really cool factors about that. But so how did you guys get in? Like, did you have to be invited, and was it a captain, or because it seemed like it was an assembly of players, right, from all over?
Yeah, it was an assembly. So originally I was talking to Clay about going, and then he unfortunately couldn't go.
This Clay Austin?
So like, well, yeah, okay. Clay Austin.
Got it.
So I was like, well, I still want to go. So I was talking to some players up here and some Canadian players at the U.S. Worlds in Madison Square Garden. I was like, oh, hey, who wants to go to, these British Open? I'd love to include this in my documentary. Okay. And players couldn't go. They kept trying to get in. I kept trying to feed people. Tyler Underwood was probably one of the only people who said yes in the beginning and stayed on that team, because I went through a lot of players saying, it's expensive. Dodgeball is an expensive sport, which people don't understand because of like the traveling. And going to England for multiple days just to play one day of dodgeball is not easy feat for everybody. So, I basically just got a hodgepodge of people. I reached out to Katie in Canada, and she had some players, and we just all joined forces and made a team.
That's awesome.
And I just basically emailed them and said, hey, we want to come play in your tournament. Can we do it? And they're like, yeah, come on over.
Nice. Some goodwill there. So did they use the same rule set and same style of play that was used during WDS, the World Cup?
Yeah, the WDA.
WDA, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I know what you meant. I believe, yeah, it was pretty much the same rule set. So you had group play, which had 5 teams. You played each team once. Matches were, I want to say, 8 minutes, and you had to like switch sides. So it's very quick games. 2 points for a win, 1 point for a tie, 0 for a loss. And, if you place in the top 2, you go to tier bracket 1. If you place 3 and 4, you go to tier bracket 2. If you get 5th, you play one other 5th place team, and then you're done for the day.
How do you tie? How's that work?
So it's based on points. They don't really have an overtime, not until they have playoffs.
Okay.
So if you win the same amount of games, it's a draw. Or if there's the same amount of players on the court, it's a draw.
Huh. So would each team get a point then? If they?
Yeah.
Okay. That's funny. I'm so used to...
Their style is very, very fast.
Right. That's what Rob was saying. He says that he loves that kind of play. And is it like the ball that makes it fast, or is it just like the court dimensions, or
timing? Because their matches aren't able to go more than 3 minutes,
right?
And you want to get as many wins as humanly possible. So the movement is just way more fluid and fast. Whereas elite, it's best of 3. There's no time limit.
Right.
You can be strategic. You can take your time. You don't have to rush. There's a clock counting down, and you have to finish within this time. Otherwise, you're not going to get any points.
I see. So there's a lot more like run and gun, just go crazy, throw kind of strategy. I
would say, yeah, essentially.
Okay.
I'm actually working on editing. I'm working on editing my GoPro footage to post that. I posted all my Sin City footage, but I'm working on posting the British Open footage.
That's gonna be cool to watch.
Yeah.
So what about the evil, terrible cloth ball do you like so much?
It's easy to catch.
Really?
I feel it's easy to catch.
Okay.
People don't throw it as hard. At least the people that we played against didn't throw it as hard. Yeah,
I mean the thing is, like, unless you have crazy, monster hands, I don't know too many people that can actually grip that thing to actually throw it like they would a regular size ball. Are you like how do you throw it? Like, do you cup it? Are you able to grip it, or?
I could barely grip it. I actually got a couple people out with throwing, which I was kind of impressed with myself because that's not my natural, state of dodgeball.
Right.
But yeah, I kind of like palm it versus grip it.
Right. Okay. Yeah, we used to, without nerding too much, so there used to be the International Dodgeball Federation that used a ball just like that, and we somehow, back in our old school lawless Tucson dodgeball days, we had a ball similar to it. It was basically a what do you call it? A hydro volleyball, a water volleyball.
Okay.
And same coat, same sleek feel, and we called it the ball of shame. And I know I've said this in like a previous episode way back, but I want to just reiterate like how much I hate this ball. We called the ball of shame because it was so hard for anybody to throw that if you got hit out by it, you were just a bad person, like you were terrible. And everyone saw when it would happen. So like if I got hit, everyone would just like look at me and just yell shame, and it was fun. I mean, it made for the nights be a lot more funner. But I just remember like just hating that thing. And then when I saw that some organizations actually utilize that kind of ball, I was like, oh God, it's flashbacks. But those were a bunch of kids playing dodgeball. Like we had no idea what we were doing back then. To see and think of today's dodgeball athlete utilizing that ball, I'm really curious now to watch that footage and see what can be done with it. Like, how fast can it be thrown? What do the catches look like? And how many of them are there on the court?
I believe there was 5 balls on the court,
Nice.
and it was 6 players.
5 balls of shame being thrown at you.
I want to say Colin from Space Cadets and I have talked about doing a tournament with the cloth ball out in the East.
I think I've seen musings of that on Facebook already. Why you guys propagating the terrible balls? But I mean, at the same time, that's kind of cool. I'm pretty sure some people would want to travel and give it a go and see what it's about. I mean, like I said, I'm already curious to watch some footage and whatnot. And I do want to kind of get into footage and documentaries and stuff. Before I did want to ask, so I mean, you spent a good deal amount of time watching, American dodgeball with all the elite tournaments and whatnot. What was it like watching an all European event? Like, was it different? Like, what was that like?
It was different. It was, it was run very specific on timing, and I don't know, it just had a different feel and vibe to it. Maybe because like I've never seen it before, but it definitely had a different vibe to it. And I was like, wow, we only play 4 games and then we go to playoffs. That was strange. So we finished 2-2 in bracket play or in group play, and we got 3rd, which was way better than I thought we were going to do because it's not our style of play.
Right.
And so I was like, okay, so we get to go to another bracket, and the bracket was just 3rd and 4th place teams, and we actually tied for 3rd, which was pretty awesome. So I think overall we played 6 games, which round robin with any elite game is 6.
Round robin with any elite game is 6.
Sorry, any like round robin, you're going to play at least 6 games.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, at least. I mean, Mark is trying to kill people now, so we'll play a lot more than 6.
Yeah. So like playing that few games, and like it spanned the whole day. I was like, this is weird. We played 16-minute games, and I only played like 4 games, and the day's almost over.
Were you tired? Like, do you feel like you got your money's worth, so to speak, or was it just I
definitely got my money's worth, but it was also the first tournament that I really had played in since coming back from being hurt, and so I wasn't sure how I was going to feel physically.
Gotcha. That's just, and this was a single day tournament, right?
Single day,
all in one day.
Well, that's not true. It was a 2-day. The second day was women and juniors.
Juniors.
Yeah, so they have a lot more of a youth leagues than we do.
That's the key.
I want to say they had 2 or 3 youth divisions.
Wow.
And they had women's.
Yeah, I mean, those youths are going to grow up to be the youths of elite dodgeball now. I mean, that's important, and we're always looking at like, hey, what's going to grow the sport, and the fact that they've got a couple of youth divisions, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, did you watch any of those games? Like, seeing these kids trying to play dodgeball?
I did not. I actually went back to London after our round.
Gotcha. Yeah, watching kids play dodgeball cracks me up, man.
Yeah, they weren't playing. So the women played earlier in the morning, and then the kids played in the afternoon.
Right.
If the kids had played in the morning, I probably would have went over there for a bit to watch because I wanted to see the kids play, but I had to catch my train. So
gotcha. Huh. And what was I going to say? I wanted to ask you about just your time. Was this your first time in Europe?
It was actually my first time. Only other place I'd been was Dublin for like a weekend. That was Sin City last year. I went to Dublin instead. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I mean, you never really think about like where dodgeball will take you. Let alone like internationally. Like I'm pretty surprised where I've gone to play dodgeball. Boston, New Orleans, Minneapolis. I always figured I'd go there at some point on my own, but don't know if I'll see myself going international anytime soon. But that's gonna be a pretty cool adventure. Just checking out Europe and playing some D-ball and meeting people, and that's really cool.
Emmanuel from forget which country team it is. I'm sorry, Emmanuel. He actually does what's called the Outcast. Yeah.
Yep.
He told me about the German beach tournament.
Yep.
And I'm really intrigued, and I kind of really want to go to that.
Yeah, it's funny because as I was saying, I don't know if I'd ever go anytime soon. I just remembered Rob telling me about that tournament and how awesome that sounded. So, I mean, maybe I might be going sooner than later because, that you just hear like the passion and excitement in his voice when he talked about his experience there and seeing, I think it was my Glenn Tabay, old friend of mine, and Emmanuel, I think is it Emmanuel Tan?
Yeah.
Last name? Yeah. Seeing them play and seeing those pictures, like it looks like a blast.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's on my bucket list now. It's official. I wanted to ask one more thing about the international scene, but I think we can probably get into it when we talk about the documentary. But I did want to ask, so you mentioned like you had an injury, and if I recall correctly, like you've got some pretty gnarly like knee injuries that you're recovering from, or just experienced throughout your dodgeball career, or can you kind of talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so my first knee injury was playing kickball. I tore my right ACL and meniscus. And then last year after Boston, I was playing cloth rec league in New York, and I jumped and I landed wrong and tore the ACL. As soon as I fell, I knew, I was like, oh, that's the ACL meniscus. That's done. Went to the hospital, and I instantly, they didn't tell me, like, oh well, we don't see anything in the x-rays, but I knew as soon as I hit the ground, I knew what it was.
Is that just because of your first injury, like you already knew that sensation? And and has that hindered your ability to play now, or has it slowed you down at all? Are you on the recovery, or?
So I want to say I'm at like 95%. I think the arthritis, kills me now, because the doctor, after going in, he's like, oh yeah, by the way, you have arthritis. I'm like, great.
Jeez.
And I think it makes me a little bit more nervous, because I traditionally like to like drop to my knees to try and catch the ball.
Right.
And now I'm a little bit more hesitant to do it. So I actually wear 2 layers of knee pads because of it, because I'm afraid of like hurting my knee again. And, I'm a lot more cautious.
Right. That's what you're saying earlier. Like you're a lot more reserved and maybe a little more deliberate than when you used to be because of the injuries and trying to preserve yourself.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And, I'm also in the fit club with you because, they say when you have knee injuries, for every like certain number of pounds that you lose, it's like for 1 pound, it's 7 pounds of pressure off of your knee. So I've always been a big guy. And at one point I was down, I want to say right before nationals, I was at like 250. And, after getting hurt, I like skyrocketed, because getting back into that groove and exercising, you're worried about your knee buckling or giving out. And it's a big mental game. And right now I have not been winning that mental game.
Yeah. I couldn't even imagine. Like I've, at worst, knocking on wood, I think of like maybe hyperextended my knee. And even that kind of haunts me just when it comes to jumping, and I'll make this joke where like I'll jump and I'll clear over a ball, then I'll land, like I hope to God I'm not in shock right now, I didn't just hurt something. But yeah, dual ACL tears, that's rough, man. Hats off to you for still sticking with it and playing and being willing to. Yeah,
it's funny, my dad's like, oh, you got hurt again, does that mean you're going to stop playing? I said, no, that's why I'm having surgery, so I can keep playing.
That's awesome. Not the getting hurt, but just you're not letting it stop you.
Yeah.
And that fit group, man, that was a really cool thing of Miles to kick off and get started. And I hope people are getting a lot out of it. I think it's awesome that people like him are stepping up and just offering guidance on how to to play dodgeball better and how to keep us older guys young and active. And I just wanted to give a shout out to Miles about that. Just for
definitely. I actually, because I had traveled, I didn't get to hop on that, start right as everyone else did. So I actually downloaded it and printed it out today. I wasn't feeling well, so I didn't even go to dodgeball today. But I printed it out so I can start doing it.
Nice.
And I'm looking forward to using that to help me get motivated and get my butt back to, the gym and getting back into the shape that I need to.
That's awesome. You're talking about his challenge, right?
Yeah, his challenge.
That's very cool. Yeah, it's you utilize motivation wherever you can find it, and sometimes it's that group, sometimes it's, I don't know, you manifest it yourself, but whatever helps. I love it. Well, let's get into documentaries. Specifically yours. What made you want to do it?
So, it's funny, right before I got hurt, I was like, man, I can't wait for my break, because I was playing dodgeball 2 nights a week. I was playing elite. I was going to the gym a lot. And I'm like, man, I kind of need a break. And then I got hurt and I was like, that is not the break that I wanted.
Yeah, I didn't mean it like that.
Yeah. And I want to say I had the surgery in November, and when you have surgery, you kind of just sit there. You can't really do anything. And I'm like, I thought about it and I processed it. I said, what am I going to do for an entire year without elite dodgeball or without dodgeball in general? I'm going to be so bored. So I was like, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to give back to the sport. I am going to make a documentary. And so I came up with this idea, and I shot an email out shot a Facebook group message to Mark, and I said, hey, Mark, I have this crazy idea. What would you think if I did a documentary about dodgeball? And so he wanted me to come up with an idea, and so I came up with an outline, I came up with an idea, and I actually was flying out to LA for a Christmas party that I actually go to every year, or almost every year, with my kickball team that I grew close with.
Oh.
And I met with Glenn and pretty much talked to Glenn about everything. I think Mark had to do something with his wife and couldn't make the meeting. And so I told him, I said, guys, I'm like, if you're letting me do this, I'm like, I'll make you highlight reels. I'll do whatever you need just for letting me capture all of this to do a documentary. And that's when I was just like, all right, I'm doing this. I'm diving head first in, and I'm just going to make a documentary. Maxed out a credit card, bought a camera, and I was like, all right, let's do this. I started finding teams, and I reached out to GOAT first because they were they're my local team. So I was like, oh, I can just follow them around.
Okay.
And I was friends with a lot of the players because they played Sandlot. And then Sergio Leon, he was starting his own team. And so I was like, all right, cool. And I needed a women's team, so I knew Katie Walker on Money Shot. So I reached out to her. And then I asked Mark and Glenn, I'm like, guys, who should I, film in these other regions? And they're like, oh, well, you could film in the north, you could film Task Force or whatever. And that was Glenn's team. So I was like, oh, all right, perfect, Glenn, I'll just follow your team. And then in the south, it was actually Adrenaline Rush, I believe it was, and Outlaws. And so I was like, oh, I know Outlaws. I know their name. I'm like, I'll reach out to them because Anthony Miller, who made it to, I want to say the 1v1, top 4, I remembered his name.
Right.
From Boston. So I reached out to him, and they were down. And then I want to say Glenn told me, he's like, you should probably get a veteran team. And so I reached out to Rise and Surge, and they were more than willing to let me come and film them and talk to them. And then I also talked to Jonathan Whipple about filming and different ideas of how I should do the documentary.
Gotcha. So real quick, so that's how you got your Rise jersey, right?
That is how I got my Rise jersey.
Which, by the way, is actually numbered, right? Did
Yes.
you get number 1? Okay.
I think so. No, hold on, let me see. I have it right next to me. So let me see.
How convenient as I kick the mic.
No, I actually have my number.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, so
82?
it's my actual last name versus because it was Rise, I actually put my last name versus my nickname.
Right.
Because they don't use nicknames. And then I put my number.
That's awesome. Yeah, and just to kind of provide some insight, they will only do that if they really, 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 really like you. It's supposed to mean something very special if you get your last name and your number on their jersey. And I'm definitely gloating when I say I have one of my own, and that's what brought it up, because Tim was telling me, like, we only did this for you and one other person, and that was you. And I was like, I wonder what he did. And then we got to talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, I actually also have something else that probably no one knows, and I'm telling you right now, I'm gonna frame it. I'm actually one of the West tournaments I'm gonna fly out to this year. I'm gonna take a picture with my jersey and Rise, because they actually gave me one of their medals from the national championship.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
that's cool.
So that's getting framed.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna frame the Rise jersey. So medal I would probably frame as well. That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, they may not seem like it, especially for people that don't know them, but they're actually a really solid group of guys. And it's funny, I used to hate them. I was not a huge fan way back in the day, but obviously I got to know them a little bit more, and they're one of the reasons why I still play. But let me back up a little bit, and I hope you don't mind me asking. You said you maxed out a credit card. Why didn't you try to do like crowdfunding or like take donations, or why I don't want to say why do that to yourself, but
so I did it. I'm a very stubborn person, and I want to say big shout out to Tori, because he's really the only reason why I even had any money raised, because I wouldn't have done it on my own.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, I didn't even know he was doing it, to be honest with you. I didn't want to burden dodgeballers with my crazy idea. Nobody asked for it. No one asked for a documentary. It was my crazy idea. So I was like, I can't ask dodgeballers who I know have hard times sometimes getting to these tournaments. And I didn't want to place that on anybody else. And also, I didn't want the pressure. If I sucked or my documentary wasn't good or something happened, like, to know that people donated money to me, like, that would be too big of a burden to me. And I didn't want to do it. I was like, I'll go into debt myself, because I've always wanted to make a movie. That's what made me go to LA. And I was like, I want to be a filmmaker. And then I realized I didn't want to be poor. So this is my one chance. I was like, when I was laying in bed trying to come up with this idea, I'm like, I can A, make a movie for myself that I've always wanted to do, and B, make it about something I absolutely love and give back to the community. Like, being able to give the highlight reels, like, everybody was so excited to see these highlight reels. And I'm just like, wow, I never thought so many people would care.
Yeah, people are losing their minds over a chance to see themselves. And I mean, I was thrilled when you were sharing the photos that you took for knee pad samples, and just I was blown away by how open you were to everything. And a couple things were brought up. So yeah, that's a pretty sound reason why I could see why you'd want to do that, just because it's kind of hard taking people's money. It's hard earned, and we all know dodgeball players don't have any, so I totally get that. But I wanted to ask, why did you want to get back? Like, that was something I wanted to ask earlier. You said you're injured, you were trying to make a positive out of a negative, but like why do you want to give back?
I guess I'm just that kind of person. I don't really have a reason. I just, I loved dodgeball. Dodgeball was a very accepting and welcoming community.
Right.
And, I fell in love with the sport, and I was like, man, this really needs to, like, get shown to the next level. I'm like, there's not enough exposure. Like, except for, people are like, oh, like the movie? Yes, like the movie. But it's actually not a bad thing, because at least people know what dodgeball is.
Right. He just reminded me of something. Who was I talking to? You know what? I think I was renting a car to go to, I think it was a Classic or whatever tournament was before that. And the person asked, hey, where are you going? I'm like, oh, I'm going to go to, it was Sin City. Yeah. So I was going to go to Vegas to play dodgeball. I was like, oh, that's awesome. And he didn't say like the movie like I thought he would. He actually said, shoot, you think I'd remember this because it was such a milestone. I even talked about it in my interview. But he cited something that had nothing to do with the movie and was an actual real thing. And I was like, holy crap, like, is this the turnaround point where people are going to start citing something else other than the movie? So when you announced that you were doing your documentary and I saw that you were an actual dodgeball player and I saw how serious you were, I was super thrilled because I think like your what you produce is going to help people see a different side of dodgeball, like the stuff that keeps us going back and the competitiveness and all that other stuff. But I mean, is that your goal? Is that what you want your documentary to do? Or
essentially, I just want people to like realize and take it like as a real sport. You know, it's funny. Like I think after my first highlight reel, I think Mark and Glenn didn't really think how serious I actually was when I first went to them with the idea.
Right.
They're like, oh, we'll see if it actually happens. And then when I started doing it and they really started, I was serious. I really think they were taken back a little bit. I mean, I can't obviously speak for them, but like I got that vibe from them that they're like, holy crap, he's actually doing this like he said he was. Because I think other people have tried to do documentaries and like they've done Kickstarters. And, you know, I think it was a little bit more than I was anticipating. At one point, I was just like, whoa, this is a lot more than I expected.
Yeah, and so when you said I was doing a documentary, let me back up before I forget some details. I actually kind of, I don't want to say rolled my eyes. I was like, oh, okay, here we go. Here's another one. And being in the dodgeball scene for so long, I have seen so many attempts to start a dodgeball documentary and people just kind of doing their own thing, like they lay claim to dodgeball. So backtracking to when I said when I found out how you're going about it, that's when I got excited. I was like, oh, this is the real deal. Like he's serious. Like he's putting time, energy, effort, money, and he's going to all these events. So that's where my excitement came from. It wasn't right away, mind you. It was once I saw you actually starting to act good on your intent there. And I think, you know, Mark especially, they've probably seen, oh, I'm going to do this for you. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And like maybe 1 out of every 15 pledges actually deliver something. So it's refreshing, man. It's refreshing to see something so quickly, like highlights and pictures, even just to even get that much. But
yeah, I actually, so like the first round I went to was East Coast round 1. And I actually didn't take any pictures then. I only filmed open. I didn't film co-ed or anything else. I actually did. I made the mistake of doing a 1-day fly out. I flew out the night before, got in super late, and then flew out the next night.
Nice. And
that was probably the dumbest thing I ever thought of doing instead of staying for the whole tournament. And I didn't want to include co-ed in the documentary for the most part, just because it was too much. And so I decided, oh, well, I'm not going to really film co-ed. I should take pictures during co-ed. And so that's when I started taking pictures after round 1. I was like, all right, people need pictures. No one takes pictures. Let me get some people some pictures. Plus, it helped me brush up on my photography skills.
Nice. So one of the things, if people are listening, I'm wondering if they're asking right now is, when will we see this documentary?
So the goal is to actually have it like a rough cut done relatively soon, which I don't know how fast I can edit it, but I'm going to be working on it very quickly because I need a rough cut to see what I'm missing. You know, one of the things I learned while shooting this documentary was how hard it is to interview and get extra stuff, like players talking, players driving in a car, talking in a hotel. All of that stuff was way harder to get because I was one person, and, you know, getting that stuff, I didn't have a chance to do it.
Right.
So I feel like that stuff might be lacking, and I may need to, I don't want to say fake it, but like go back and get extra interviews to help cover that, because when you're playing a tournament, players are focused. You can't grab interviews. It is very hard. I tried.
Oh yeah. No, definitely not on your scale or your scope, but even with my dodgeball, you know, or in-event interviews, it's tough, even for like 2 minutes just to grab somebody. And for those of you guys that participate in those interviews, thank you so much. But yeah, no, I can imagine like getting on film and actually pushing pause on the event for 10, 15 minutes to get on the camera. So,
well, a lot of times, so what I ended up doing was I actually did almost like a reality style interview where I waited until nationals or after most of the rounds to do the interviews, just because I didn't have time to do it after each tournament or during the tournament or any of that. So I almost did like a recap. So when I approached the interviews, I was like, okay, pretend like we're starting in the beginning of the season. Remember round one. Tell me what was like, and like literally go through the entire season. So it wasn't even just a 10-minute interview. It was like 30, 40, 50 minutes or more on some of these interviews.
Gotcha. That's cool, man. I'm excited for it. Did you get any like pushback from any players or teams or anybody like give you a hard time or?
So I actually
anybody you want to throw under the bus right now?
I don't like to throw people under the bus. I only had one player actually give me pushback, and it actually it kind of really bothered me. I don't know why I got pushback from them, but they just didn't want to record the interview, and that was Anthony Miller on Outlaws. Like, he agreed to do the documentary and then didn't want to do the interview part, and I didn't understand why. To this day, I didn't ask him. I was just like, all right, whatever. I got the rest of the team. I just have to move forward. But it really it upset me because nobody else gave me pushback.
Right.
Everybody else was super excited. I don't know. I don't know what happened. I have no hard feelings towards him. I may have to cut him on some of the stuff, but I mean, he did give me interview or like a on the cuff interview when I was doing his 1v1. But I didn't get like a sit down interview with him.
Yeah, I think he's just shy. Maybe we can talk to him offline, because I try to get him on the podcast too, because he's been around for a very long time, and I remember him from his San Diego days on Face Check and practicing with Rise, and I was like, oh, this is a great into the South, and he wasn't really interested in interviewing me, but he was really helpful in telling me who to interview, and that's how I met Vaughn, and yeah, I mean, so he he introduced me to, that's how I met Vaughn Kelly, Marie Garrig, Joe Martinez, and those guys have been awesome, and they've really helped me get like a pretty good, I don't want to say hold, but a good handle on the South. So no, I don't think Anthony doesn't want to be interviewed because he's a jerk. I just think he might be a little shy, or maybe it's just something he doesn't want to do. But
yeah, and that's why I don't have any hard feelings. I just, I still got to film everything. I still got to film the players. I'll make it work.
Just dub somebody else's voice over him. That way, he's been around for so long. Like he needs to be included in this movement. But let me see. Were there any? I'm going to go ahead and stir the pot with this one. What was your best region? Like your most favorite region to film? So
I am biased. I am West Coast biased because I could tell you, going to all of the different rounds, you really get to see who fights the most, who's the most organized, and who is just fair. And I think, I'm sorry, all of the other players and all the other regions, even my own, please don't peg me in the face. The West Coast has the best dodgeballers. Oh, I'm going to get pegged in the face now.
Mm-hmm.
But the West Coast, for the most part, has the best players in dodgeball.
I mean, you're right. At least, what did Alan say, per capita? Am I using that right?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah. It's...
They just, you know what it is? I think, here's what I think why West Coast is just so much more dominant. I really think they put a lot more, especially watching Rise, they have more opportunity to play. They literally play 7 days a week. The women have their own league on Wednesday nights, the No Boys Allowed League. And, there's so much more competition there. And, watching Rise, when talking to Rise, they have practice almost every other weekend, or, they have a mandatory practice and then they have practice once a month or more. And I was like, people don't do that enough. We're actually just doing that now in the East, in New York specifically. But seeing that motivation, I didn't see that with a lot of teams.
Do you think Do you think your footage is going to help other teams show that? Because I realized when I'm talking to Serge and some other people that they kind of use the podcast as a way to find out who else is out there. And I also, when I talked to GOAT, they said that they base a lot of their strategy on Rise. So, but it's one thing to do it, watching game footage or listening to a soundbite, but to actually be there, I'm assuming, through your point of view, through what you covered on the documentary, do you think you're going to provide teams with like not like an edge, but just like another way to see how these teams function?
Unfortunately, I don't think enough of my teams actually did stuff like that for me to capture it. They had a few, like, I actually got into, I was giving Dan from GOAT a hard time. I was like, you guys didn't invite me any film sessions. You didn't, I went to one practice of your guys. I'm like, did you guys actually practice? And he's like, dude, we're not going to invite you to an 8-hour film viewing or like however long it is.
I need to know what that's
and I'm like, I would have come for a little bit and you could have kicked me out.
Yeah. So that surprised me when they told me that they did film review. I don't remember it being 8 hours, but I'm that's
just
incredible.
Exaggerating.
Okay. I was going to say, well, just doing it period is pretty crazy. Just to have that kind of discipline and that desire to get better. And, with respect to the fact that the West has so many options of playing dodgeball, kudos to teams like GOAT that can just utilize what they have and do their best to get better and better.
I definitely think like GOAT morphed. if you look at GOAT round 1, they barely reached. They got knocked out by Z Warriors and didn't really get that far in bracket play. And then round 2 and round 3, they really like stepped at their game and changed.
Right.
Like I really think Edgar Fox really changed the way they were looking at things, and the leadership just like meshed very well. The team meshed and the chemistry was just there, and they were on all cylinders.
So Edgar Fox changed, like, he was with the team the whole time, right?
He was with the team the whole time, but I feel like there was just a dynamic that changed from round 1 to round 2.
Gotcha. Okay. Because I'm trying to remember. I mean, I don't really have much to base this off of, but the GOAT I faced in nationals, when we played against them in round robin, I don't want to say we beat them easily, but I didn't really have a hard time beating them. However, the next day they did something to change, and they were a completely different team. So, I mean, they it sounds like they can adapt pretty well.
Well,
so
I will give you some insight on that. So I didn't actually get to capture this on camera because there were some things that I just wasn't allowed to or wasn't able to capture.
Were they doing
but
drugs
there was a little bit of problems, I guess, with the way they were playing because they had added Kyle to their team.
Uh-huh.
And so they weren't used to him playing with him. And then I guess they all hashed it out that night and went over it as a team and really like faced each other and like got their stuff together come playoffs.
Gotcha. That's pretty cool. So they had like a come to Jesus moment.
Essentially.
For lack of better terms.
I'm sad I couldn't record that come to Jesus moment, but
yeah, I mean,
they did have it.
Teams got to have that. Because I mean, you could tell there's a definite change in between the days. And I can spend a lot of time talking about your experience and what you saw. I did want to ask, however, what was it like going to both the World Dodgeball Association and the World Dodgeball Federation Championships, World Cup stage? Like, what? Because obviously there's a lot of controversy with certain people.
Yeah.
And certain things about the WDA. What was that like?
Well, I remember we talked about it briefly on the WDBF recap.
Right.
And, I just want to say that, Jake and USA Dodgeball really has their stuff together. They were, so like filming, just from a filming aspect, Jake allowed me to go wherever I wanted, record whatever I needed, and didn't get put on a limitation. WDA, I did not have that flexibility.
I can imagine.
It was hard to film. The lighting was terrible. I wasn't allowed to film on the court unless I pulled, because I was a ref also. I had to like say, oh, look, here's my ref card. Let me come over here. And, you know, my footage is actually behind the back of, and I only got the men's. It was behind them and just filming them from behind with like terrible lighting. And, you know, I didn't feel like I had as much freedom as I did. And it was from a ref aspect and from a person going to both, being I refed both, the WDA one was not run well at all.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to dig into it too much. I feel like we've done that enough. But it's hard not to latch onto that.
Yeah, even the players, when I went to the British Open, like no one really likes the WDA. It's just they don't really have the choice because WDBF is more foam,
right?
And the European players all want to play cloth. You know, so there's all the politics, and you know, hopefully Jake and USA Dodgeball and maybe even WDBF can hopefully fix this bad tension, the past gripes, and all of the bad things that's happened in the past, which, listening to the OG panel, like, it's what built the sport, but hopefully it can really help mend it and make our sport better in the long run.
For sure.
Here's hoping.
Yeah, right. Well, like I said, I won't latch on to that too much. I think everything that's needed to be said has been in the OG panels, and probably get into it more in part 4 when we get around to getting back together. But let's move on back to the events. So, like, do you have one that just was like your absolute favorite or stood out the most? I mean, you went to like every freaking event there was. So, like, what?
I went to let's see. I went to. I know. Glenn and I were doing a running joke of how many times we saw each other throughout the year, and I want to say I saw Glenn 13 times. Wow. So I saw him essentially once a month. I don't think I saw my family as much as I saw Glenn and some of these dodgeball players.
That's saying a lot, and adding to the whole Dodgeball's family idea.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm a huge Dodgeball family, you know, supporter. I think the Dodgeball family and the Dodgeball community is amazing. I learned that the most shooting this documentary. I want to say one of my favorite places I went, I would say the US Open, the USA Dodgeball Combine was one of my favorite things because I got to see a lot of players and you know, explore, and even going to Portland. Like, I had never gone to Portland before. And, you know, I got to go hang out with players that I've never really hung out with. And they're like, oh, hey, you've been filming us. Hey, come hang out with us. Come go to dinner with us. And I'm like, okay.
That's cool.
And, you know, it was really awesome. Even Outlaws, like Matt from Outlaws, he let me, like, crash at their house. And, you know, Serge from Rise let me crash at his house. Like, those little things, like, really, like, it's amazing. Like, Paige said, you know, if you're coming to Chicago this year, you can crash at my place. And, like, people really opening their doors for dodgeballers is amazing.
That's awesome. And yeah, I mean, I definitely, I almost like I sound like a broken record, but I really do like to harp on the fact that the dodgeball community can still be amazing. Yeah, we get in these crazy thread Facebook fights or whatever, and it may seem like that's all it is, just like this toxic, selfish, like crybaby, everybody hates each other type thing. But I think when it comes to, like, I don't want to say like the physical aspect, but like when it really matters, they pull through all the time. I mean, just Tori, for example, you know, taking it upon himself to collect money just because, you know, he appreciated what you're doing, and people like Joe busting out this software, and Bill creating this like website, and you making this documentary. Like, there's a lot of good in the community overall, and I think that definitely should and does outshine the bad. I mean, it's easy to get stuck on a 68 comment thread, but I feel like it's even easier just to kind of not look at it and just
like and using Tori, like I can tell you how that all like started. Tori wanted to buy me dinner in, I forget which region I was or where I was. And I was like, no, you don't have to buy me dinner. It's fine. He goes, but you've recorded so much. I took pictures for him because he was trying to get a sponsorship for this mouthpiece he was doing. And he was just so appreciative. I'm like, dude, I do it because like, we're all community. We're all like, and him raising the money, I could tell you, that $1,000 that he raised, it basically paid for my rental of all of my gear I used at nationals.
Nice.
So like getting that, like, because I wasn't going to ask for any money. I just was never going to do it. I will drown in silence before I want to ask players for money. And so like it meant a lot that, he raised that money. He even paid for my dinner when I told him not to. And, just for somebody going out of their way like that, it's like, wow, that's really awesome. Because a lot of people actually thought I was getting paid by Elite, or Elite was, people were like, oh, you should ask Mark. He probably has some budget for it. And I'm like, no, it's not the reason why I'm doing it. I don't want to get any money off of this.
Yeah.
Even the NCDA, I actually wanted to go to nationals last year and I couldn't go. I forget what it was. And so I was talking to them this year and they're like, yeah, we might be able to give you some money. I'm like, dude, I don't want the money. Give me a couch to sleep on and I'll be happy.
You're good. That's awesome.
And even me commenting on like some of the players who are making their roster videos, I'm like, I have all the footage. You guys can have it. I've gotten a lot of requests since I made those comments. But like all of the footage, like just because I'm putting in a documentary, people can have it. The only footage I don't give out is huddles because people talk in the huddles and, I'm not giving that out. But if it's gameplays, you can have it. Karina asked me to upload her game from Sin City for it was, I think, Taste That versus Money Shot. I'm like, yeah, sure. Edited it together, uploaded it for her, and I said, here's your link. Same with Crystal. I was like, here you go. Here's all your stuff.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, hopefully more people take you up on that because it's a great resource. And I think kind of opened my eyes a little bit too because I just realized, yeah, there's more to it than just the documentary. I mean, there's tons of footage out there that can and needs to be used, and you're down to share it. So that's great.
Yeah, as Mark always stresses it when we do the live stream, y'all got to share it. And I really think that's how we're going to help grow our sport. Yeah,
for sure. I did want to make one quick sidebar comment about the dodgeball community, and that is, it's all great except for Michael Clive. He's the reason why it's negative. So
I like Mike. Why? What is with the trash talking?
I'll tell you offline. Okay. I don't want to taint this interview any more than I already have by mentioning his name. So. All right. Well, let's move on. Speaking of the community, let's move on to the crowdsource questions because there's quite a few. So I want to start off with Markel Stokes and Sergio Leone's question, and that is, what song amps you up for a dodgeball game, and or do you have a pregame playlist?
So here's the funny thing. I am not one of those players. I do not listen to any music. I do not have a pregame pump-up song, nothing.
Crazy. You just go into the court and play.
Yeah, pretty much. I just go, I wait. Once I get that first, like, peg, I'm like, all right, I'm awake. I'm ready to go.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's funny because I just assume everyone has a pump-up song, and I'm finding out more and more that they either don't or they have something crazy, like somebody said they listen to country or something crazy, or like piano music. I'm like, what? But yeah, to each their own. I'm gonna definitely want to ask everyone, so I might breeze through some of these, but
yeah, go ahead.
Emilio Velis, he said, I think he said, awesome. He's one of my Dodgeball Teens fans. And he's got a picture of you holding up some of his comics. But what was your favorite episode or your favorite issue? Do you have one?
Yeah, so I bought all of them. I actually have to buy his latest issue. My favorite issue that he did was, I want to say it was issue number 8, where he actually went in and drew multiple players from different teams in the crowd. And I was like, you don't even know half of these players, but like you're still like in the community and you're like wanting to help grow and draw these players into your comic. Like that was real. I thought that was really cool.
I think I saw like what do they call them? Not samples, but like
little caricatures.
Well, he was showing like shoot, man, what is it? It's got an actual like term, but it's like proofs. Was it proofs maybe? He's showing like this is what these characters look like, and he's just like lining them up. And I mean, those are people from every region. Like I even saw like Casey Moses in there. From Titan. That was really cool. So yeah, I mean, he's been like super supportive and awesome. Do you have a favorite character, or so you said your favorite issue was 8, but what's your favorite character if you have one?
I don't really have one per se. I just really liked issue 8 because he put all the community in there.
That's awesome. Let's see. Oh, this is a good one. And maybe this is 2 parts. So Joseph Kincarini asked, did you ever want to quit? And if yes, what pulled you back from quitting? So from recovering from your knee injuries, did you ever want to quit? You said no earlier, right?
No, I did want to take a break before I got hurt, but I never really wanted to quit. But we'll go into. I'll give a little hint later on the quitting portion.
Okay.
We'll give a little teaser to everybody.
And that's as a player, right? Because I wanted to ask that question for as a documentarian or filmographer or whatever the term is. Did you ever want to quit doing that?
I actually want to do the opposite, I think. If all goes well, I might make this my last season playing. We'll see if everything pans out the way I want it to. I actually want to work on this year. I'm going to try and work on filming a little bit better so that people have better footage and just get practice at that.
Nice. So was there ever a time in the documentary where you thought, I'm in over my head, I don't want to do this anymore?
Oh my God. I definitely I had a lot of moments where, I got really frustrated. Like I had to miss the Jonathan Whipple and Valerie Whipple's wedding because I didn't have enough money to buy the flight and I had to save it for going to one of the rounds. So that one was and then the hardest one, because I beat myself up and I'm a lot harder on myself than most people. Losing the footage on a plane of half of Worlds, the WDBF one, that crushed me. I didn't touch dodgeball footage, I want to say, for a month or 2. I was like, I can't believe I messed something up this bad. And I ran into hiccups every now and then. Like round 2, when GOAT actually won, the audio's off. The microphone wasn't in all the way. And so the audio was off, and I'm like, oh my God, why? I'm like, why are these things happening? And, I got stressed, but I was like, you know what? I found other footage, and I was like, no, I can make this. I can make this happen. It's going to happen. And so I never really wanted to quit, but I did get discouraged a few times.
That's a good way to put it. I didn't want to quit, but I got discouraged. Because that's bound to happen.
And going back to the community, when I got discouraged, Mick reached out to me. He goes, "Hey, dude, you can use whatever footage." Eric Boyer from Mad City, he's like, "Dude, you can use some footage if you need it." And
that's awesome.
Jake, he's also said, any footage you need, you can use the footage. It's fine. And having the community, really hey, we know it happens. Justin from GOAT, he said, Dom, I work at a production company. This stuff happens way more than you think. And, it really, I had that support because a lot of people, they saw me post about it, and, I beat myself up. I was really discouraged, but, I wasn't going to quit because of it.
That's awesome. See, there we go. Community pulling through. Instead of crucifying you for losing footage, they're telling you it's no big deal. It happens. That's awesome, man. I like to hear stories like that. avoid some feels here. Abdul Saeed asked, what motivated you to want to make a documentary? But I think we covered that. Just want to let him know that
we covered that one.
We did see his question. Markel Stokes, what is your favorite jersey? And then Sergio had the audacity to think it was his, but
no, that's not his. It's Roy Bott's is actually one of my favorite jerseys because Johnny 5 is on it, and I'm an '80s baby. I grew up in the '80s and '90s, and that was Short Circuit too.
Yep.
So that is one of my favorite jerseys. My other favorite jersey is Rise because, like you said, like 2 people have gotten a Rise jersey. So I cherish that jersey.
Right. Such a sick gesture, man. It was a good couple minutes for me. But Roy Botts, yeah, Johnny 5, man. I think you and I might be one of the few people that might recognize him, plus whoever's wearing that jersey. What does he say? I'm alive, Johnny 5? I might have to.
Yes.
I might have to watch that again, but that scene where they kill him traumatized me. I hated that
Short
scene.
Circuit too.
Yeah.
That was a rough one. That was my favorite. I actually still have the DVD.
Yeah, and then like they got the freaking oil popping up like it's blood. I'm like, why would they do this? This is a kid's movie. It's probably why I turned into such a negative person. But they also have Mega Man, which is awesome.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, they're I think they're one of my favorites too. I think I might have actually said that in my interview. Miles Garner asked favorite region and event to film. I think favorite region was West Coast, right?
West, and it was a lot of fun watching the flight kills. He had some flight kills for me.
Okay. And then you said, I think earlier, your favorite event was the Combine, just because that was so different.
Yeah.
For sure. Markel asks, what are the most exciting moments you've seen in Dodgeball, from Elite, from Worlds, and any tournaments you filmed?
Oh, man. That's a loaded one.
Yeah.
So
try to breeze through that one.
Ooh, that's tough. I really enjoyed seeing the athleticism in some of these players. They really, like, the flight kills and, seeing the players, like, jump around. And I'm like, man, what I wouldn't give to be younger, to be able to do stuff like that. Like, me getting a flight kill, I'm doing, like, I'll get maybe a foot, One of my favorite, I think you said one of my favorite moments were. I have 2. One was Robbie on XL, Robbie Weber, I believe is his last name.
Yeah, on Greyjoy. Yeah, I know him.
So he had 2. Someone tried to suicide him, flight kill him, and he caught it point blank. Nice. And then another time he was like, the person was in his face and he caught it. And it was the same game. And watching that was amazing. And then I would say the other thing was watching Malaysia in the Worlds and, during the no blocking, the style in which they played and the ability that they were able to block the ball without touching it, like their precision and the way they train blew my mind.
Yeah, I think you were telling me that, right? Where I forget his name, but he was like, he just crouched so low and he would just like position the balls or bounce them up at such a good time that it would negate the throw and he would just be like impossible to hit because of that.
Yep.
Yeah, God, you've seen so much, man. It's crazy to think about what's in that head of yours.
I've seen a lot of dodgeball. I learned a lot too.
I bet. I'll probably have to save that question for last. Just trying to get 10% of what's in your head on this interview. But let's continue scrolling through the crowdsource. So Nicholas Factorian asks, where's my Egyptian dodgeball jersey?
Yeah, there was a big ordeal with Egyptian dodgeball jerseys.
Uh-oh. Do I get into that or just
a lot of people were it. They were like $10 and some people didn't get them. People took them and they took the wrong sizes. It was a really big mess.
Oh man.
So I actually have his jersey somewhere in my pile of clothes, but I have it in a bag and I forgot to bring it when I went to Sin City.
Yeah, that explains your follow-up comment there.
Yeah.
That's funny. Kind of. Sergio Lone asks, what was your expectation in capturing and how did it differ from what you witnessed?
I learned that dodgeball is very hard to capture. It is a lot harder than I expected. You know, I by the end of it, I kind of learned how I wanted to film, and you know, unfortunately for me, you know, going to nationals, I couldn't film everybody I wanted the way I wanted because I brought people with me.
Right.
But like getting that film style, like I want to say I did a couple live streams for Tyler, and he always had me go to like the back corner and hold up the camera so he could have a better view, and I more tried to focus on like the center and go back and forth. So I kind of learned like you can't really watch dodgeball going back and forth. You kind of need that overhead shot.
I see. Overhead, like
the back corner.
Okay.
So you get more of like the court versus pacing back and forth.
Yeah, I can imagine. Plus, you can only follow so much without making the viewer sick, and then you have to just time it just right. And how are you going to know if somebody's going to do something amazing or just stand there and block or do nothing?
Yeah, I've missed a couple of those, but like I've gotten a lot as well too.
Yeah, it's probably one of those, like, it's a numbers game. You just film as much as you can, and eventually you're going to get some cool stuff.
Yeah, essentially that's what it was.
For sure. Sergio also asked, what was your favorite round? Like, let's do, yeah, of all the elite rounds, do you have a particular favorite?
I have two that I really enjoyed filming, and one of them is a controversial round, or people may not like the round, but it was the Portland round because the gym was really, really hot.
Yeah, I heard that was a death chamber.
It was really hot, but like I got a lot of intense dodgeball. The crowd was like really into it, and like, you know, they turned on Rise a little bit, and I got to capture that on camera. And I really actually enjoyed that just because I think I was like, okay, like this is pretty cool. Like seeing fans and spectators watch it and then cheer for a team and not cheer for a team. Like it was really interesting. And then the other one was GOAT in round 2 when they won in the East.
Any reason in particular for the round 2 GOAT win, or?
Maybe because like I actually like, and even, you know, I think all of my teams for the most part did pretty well when I was with them, but like just seeing the adrenaline and the excitement, knowing that they were going to win a medal, you know, it like gets you pumped up, at least for me, because I was so involved, because I'm not like your typical documentary filmmaker. I actually live in this sport. I have to go back to this sport. It's not like I just walk away and I'm done.
Yeah, you're
invested. So like I take a vested interest whereas someone else might not. And so seeing it, I got just as excited. I'm like, oh, this is so exciting.
That's awesome. Again, so like, you know, the whole documentary claim, I was like, yeah, a dodgeball documentary by a dodgeball player, like there can be no better combination. That's just, you have to have that. So I can definitely see like you getting kind of injecting your emotions in that win. That makes sense. Plus nobody likes Billy anyway, so nobody wanted to see him win again. Just kidding, man. I don't know if you're listening, but
he's gonna peg you in the face.
Wouldn't be the first and probably won't be the last.
That was actually my request to all the players. I said to Rise and I said to Mikey, I said, hey guys, you love me for filming you. Can you, when I go back to the court, can you please just not peg me in the face? That's my only request.
I think that's fair. Oh man. Speaking of, Colin Dowling says dat face shot. What is he talking about? Is that even a question, Colin? What is this, man? Like?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, well, I'm going to scroll back up to Miles Gardner because this is a real question. Any hilarious bloopers during filming or unexpected gold mines caught on film? Please tell me yes.
So I have Josh Ty dancing
nice.
A lot because he likes to dance before he starts his game.
Of course.
He twerks sometimes, so I have some footage of that.
Oh, boy.
The gold I think I have was people doing flight kills, double catches. Brenda Kramer at Nationals getting the double catch. I actually had 2 angles on that one.
Awesome. That was pretty sick. I remember talking to her about that.
Oh, I know. Sorry. I know what the best one is that I have. The ball pop from Nationals.
Who did Miles do that? Who popped it?
So somebody blocked the ball. They jumped up. They had a ball in their hand. They jumped up and landed straight on an 8.5 ball, and it popped. And you just hear, boom. And I happened to catch that on camera, and that was so funny. Mark loved it. He thought it was the greatest thing.
Do you remember who popped it, though? Was it Markel? Or not Markel, Miles?
I actually think it's on my YouTube channel. I'm actually going to see if I can find it while we're doing this.
Yeah, go ahead and try to cue that up, just because I need to know who did that. I want to say it was Miles. I don't know why, but I'm trying to remember. I don't remember hearing about it either. I just remember just saying, oh my God, a ball popped on somebody. That's crazy.
I don't have it on my Facebook, on my YouTube page. I thought I did.
Very well. Well,
I'll have to find it and post it. But it was great. It was amazing.
For sure. Man, Sergio with the questions. Love it.
Oh yeah, he was pumping out those questions.
I think he just needs to be the one to ask the questions now. Just bring him on.
You should.
I might actually. Been talking to him about it in between offline conversations, so I could use the help. But he asks, who gave the most enlightened interview that conveyed what dodgeball is as a whole? Okay.
Ooh. Well, I can tell you, I actually haven't listened to some of them because I had a team at Nationals where a lot of my interviews got done, and Talisa, who was one of my friends who came, she did so many interviews. I haven't had time to go through all of them. But I would probably say Serge and Justin gave some like really good, insightful interviews. The funniest interview was actually Joey on XO, because it was at the Tribune tournament, and this homeless lady came into where we were and was just like staring at us oddly. And I was like, whoa. I'm like, lady, you are so weird. What are you doing?
Huh. Was that captured at all, or?
No, because it was behind me and the camera was facing Joey. So,
okay.
I mean, it might be on like a little bit Joey and I talking about it, but it's not really captured.
Is this Joey Razor Kramer? Joey?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. See, I know, I'm starting to remember names on the Facebook. But you said Serge Ferrari gave you one of the most enlightening ones?
Yeah, because he has so much history in the sport. Like, he really could go in depth and be like, tell me about him playing in the bar. Like, when you talked on the OG panel, like, playing in a bar. Like, who would let someone play in a bar?
Right. It's the good old days, man. Yeah, he's a very articulate, very smart guy that just brings a lot to a conversation. So I'm not surprised to hear him. And the other one was Justin Payan?
Justin Bosch.
Bosch, okay. I was going to say Payan.
I have yet to interview Mark and Jake. Or Glenn.
Gotcha.
I still have a long list of people to interview. So, like, one of the things I want to do, which we touched on earlier, was I want to get a cut done sooner than later, so then I can use this elite season to get some interviews that I didn't get to put them in the documentary.
Make up for potential lost interviews.
Lost interviews, missing pieces, that sort of thing.
Well, I was going to say, when I interviewed Payan, that was really surprising. Like, he gave a lot of really awesome nuggets. But Justin Bausch, or is it Bausch or Bush? I always mess it up.
I always call him Bush.
Bush, yeah, same. It's always great talking to him. Let's see. Oh, look, a real question from Colin Dowling. Favorite non-dodgeball related thing you did on a trip?
I would say it was probably Portland, going to like see the waterfalls and like get to see Portland. Like, that was a lot of fun.
Because Oregon's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty state. Even though Clive lives there, somehow manages to be beautiful. Let's see. Frenchie Nguyen Who didn't want to join asks, when is it coming out?
Oh no, I tagged him. He didn't want to comment, so I
Oh,
commented.
okay, got it. He's asking when the documentary comes out.
So
I
will.
An answer for that?
So I'm trying to. We talked about it briefly, but I think we got sidetracked.
Right.
So here's the game plan. The game plan is to have it edited, have a rough cut, show it to Mark and Glenn and Jake. Use this season to like fine tune it. Have a finished version done by Nationals. I haven't pitched this to Mark yet, though. I want to use the Friday night party that we normally have as a screening of the Dodgeball documentary. And it has to be done before August because my goal is to submit it to the Sundance Film Festival.
Right.
And you cannot air it. You cannot basically submit to anyone else if you don't air it, if you air it or show it anywhere else. So I'm going to submit it to the Sundance Film Festival. I'm going to do a private screening. Hopefully I can for all the Dodgeball players. There's loopholes and stuff around it. I've looked it up. And then that way, you know, the Dodgeballers can actually see, look, this actually happened. There's actually a documentary.
Yeah.
But, you know, I told Mark in the beginning when I started, I said, Mark, I'm like, I want to make this a great documentary. I want to show this sport in a positive light the way it is without the whole fighting on Facebook and like to really show the community and the sport as a whole. And so I told him I would show him the documentary before anything else.
I hope that happens. Being able to watch it with everybody, the during the Nationals, like that, I can think of no better place.
Yeah, so that's the goal. We'll see.
See if it happens.
We'll see if it happens.
For sure. Freaking Joe DeFuria, tough question. How tough was it filming on the sideline for an entire year while you were rehabbed? And did you contemplate coming back earlier than advised?
I actually didn't. Like, there might have been one or two times like, man, I miss playing dodgeball, but I didn't want to screw my knee up. And so I was very like, no, I cannot go back because I wanted to make sure it was strong enough to really like go back and not ruin anything.
Nice. So you actually maintained the discipline and you didn't feel like that.
I did. Like, I did get envious of watching everybody play, and I'm like, oh, I want to play so bad, but right. I didn't like, all right, let's hop in.
Wise. Yeah, it's rough. I mean, I'm not even going to pretend like I've experienced injuries to your level, but just having to sit out any amount is excruciating, especially when you're watching. You're like, God, I wish I was out there. And I know some people play anyway against their better judgment. Dylan, Odin, playing with your busted hand, you fool. You run the risk of making it worse, and you probably shouldn't. But kudos to you, man, for not what do you call it? Not making it worse or not exposing yourself to unnecessary risk. A little bit of a lengthy one here word-wise, but Alan Thomas asks, now that you've done all the filming and seen most, if not all the footage, what insights do you have about filming dodgeball that might help the average Joe putting up a GoPro or some other recording solution? It's like, what advice could you give?
So I can say I have a Joby tripod that like bends, and I have the GoPro clamp. I'm actually not the biggest fan of GoPros anymore because the quality was a lot more lacking than I thought it would be. You know, the GoPro is like, oh, it has such great footage. And like going back and like looking at the British Open footage, like, because a lot of the GoPro footage I used was like backup footage.
Okay.
And looking at it, I'm just like, wow, this footage isn't as nice and as clean as I thought it would be. And, you know, I did learn that it's very hard to record in gyms. It's a lot easier when there's like the metal poles that separate the courts, because then you can clamp on to like one of the ends and film the court that way. That was probably the easiest way to film with the GoPro. But yeah, filming is a lot harder than I expected. I tried to, at the Tribune tournament, the first Tribune tournament, I actually tried to live stream and have one of my light stands, one of my cheaper light stands, record, and they broke it within 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It was destroyed. I was like, all right, well, that wasn't a good idea. Because it's hard because you have the balls flying everywhere and like you want to set something up in the corner, but like the players crouch in the corner and sit in the corner and, the ball's going to deflect. So I have some ideas of how I can film better. I'm going to try and work on that. Probably not round 1, maybe round 2, and seeing how I can, record more games from both angles. And I will make sure to let Alan know once I figure it out.
Yeah, there's got to be like this ideal setup or this ideal clamp or stand or thing you can, I don't know, create, or there's got to be something out there that could solve at least like I don't say like the amateur filmographer's, problem, but just somebody that wants better team footage. I'm sure there's a solution out there, but it's funny, man. Like it doesn't matter what it is or how badly you don't want it to be hit. If you bring something into a dodgeball gym, it will be hit. It never fails to not do that.
So one of the retired players, Dwitty from Arkham, he's in New York, and he actually takes his cell phone and uses painter's tape and tapes it to the wall. And honestly, like his footage is really, really good.
That's interesting.
I worry with the cell phone up against a wall. Not every court has a wall. Some of them have like those hanging drape court walls or whatever, and it just would cause a ripple effect and look really like nauseating watching that footage.
I thought you were just meaning like if a ball just hit that cell phone square in the center going 80 miles an hour.
Yeah, well, that too. That too.
Yep. And the last thing you see is a red or blue dot whirling its way towards you.
Yeah.
Let's see. We got a couple more, both from Abdul Saeed again. He asks, now that you're back this season, what are your expectations and goals for yourself and at the team level?
So I actually am on a very good team this year, surprisingly. I basically was like, hey, who wants a broken old dude that can record games?
Nice.
And Mount Olympus took me. So okay. I actually look at myself as probably the weakest player on the team. And so my regards is, and I told Tyrell this when joining, I'm like, I'm a team player. I will sacrifice myself for the greater good of the team. I know what my role is on the court, and I actually have I'll give everyone a tip out there. I actually bought a volleyball clipboard from Amazon, and I labeled it Dodgeball because it has the same exact court setup as a dodgeball court, and I kind of want to help coach a little bit more. Watching Edgar on GOAT and like really seeing how he like helped guide the team and really like give strategy. And watching Rise with the strategy, I really learned a lot watching all of these really good teams, and I feel like I could help benefit my team that way by coaching and taking almost like a rotation status and coach status, because when we talked about the European style and what's different, they have coaches. We don't have coaches, and I kind of really took a liking to that. I'm like, I could be a dodgeball coach. I've watched enough players. I know what people do. I get this.
Do you think that's the future for? Because we briefly talked about it during the Tribune recap with Dylan coaching because he was injured. But do you see dodgeball players now, especially like us older veterans, actually coming back to dodgeball to coach?
I think so. I can picture someone like Vince or Ketchum coaching when they're done. I could picture them coaching for sure.
Yeah. It feels hard to just think like, okay, I played my last game. I'm done. I'm hanging up my knee pads, my jersey. I'm not playing anymore. My body can't take it. I'm just going to walk away from dodgeball forever. I feel like even for me, that'd be impossible. Like I had to be near it somehow in some capacity.
Yeah. Even when I got after getting hurt, my dad was like, "Oh, you're going to quit." I'm like, "No, I don't want to quit. I love this." And watching players like Tim Fullerton on Rise and like seeing how good he is for an older Jim and Tim, like seeing them play as older dodgeball players, I'm like, man, you guys had to really change up your game and like really have to like work hard to maintain this level. I'm like, I have a lot of respect for players like that who just can keep playing and not give up.
Yep. Yeah, speaking of Tim and Jim, I think either would be a pretty outstanding coach.
Oh yeah,
if they stick around after they're retired. Abdul Saeed also asked an inside joke here, but who's your favorite ninja?
So I called Tyrell and Dean. I called those guys and Abdul. I called all of them ninjas.
Okay.
They're not going to like this because I'm actually not going to pick any of them. My favorite ninja is Joe Grant, my original ninja from LA. Watching him jump around, I want to say he was one of the first people that I really saw like jump around and like do splits in the air. Even Chris Bell, like watching players like that, like so impressive.
Okay. So like not a fictional ninja like Snake Eyes or Leonardo
No.
just actual
well,
people.
Just like watching their moves, like even watching, if you go back and watch Vince versus Tyrell in the UDC, you know, Vince, I want to say in that interview, he said, he was really hard to hit because he's just all over the place. Tyrell is more, he started in UDC, but like just watching him like throw his body around and like dodge the balls, I'm like, man, I wish I had the agility and the agileness that these guys have to dodge the ball.
Right. Do all kinds of crazy acrobatic maneuvers on purpose and land just fine and keep doing it again. Yeah, it's pretty impressive what people can do. So let's go up to, I guess, like call it the Andrew Ketchum question. It's still one of my favorites.
This is a great question.
Right, and kudos to Andrew for thinking this one up. But what do you want to achieve in dodgeball, and what keeps pushing you to play and get better? So I think you can take that in two ways. Like, what do you want to achieve, you know, from somebody that's producing content, and what do you want to achieve as a player?
So I think I've come to the terms, I will never be a Vince Marchbanks. I will never be, you know, Andrew Ketchum. I will never be a player like that at like the top level. I think I've come to terms with that, but I think I'm smart enough to know the game that I could help coach a team be at that level, and work together and really like do well. I don't think myself as a player, like watching people like Andrew Ketchum and, you know, the top players in the top 100, like Brandon Cook up in Portland. I think he's in Portland, not Seattle, right?
Yeah, Portland.
Yeah. Watching him, like he posted a picture of him, and the ladies do this all the time with like they're leaned back and like just dodging
like
the
limbo
ball.
Picture.
Yeah, and my knees cringe looking at that. Like I know that's never gonna happen, but like watching players like him and, you know, watching these top players, I'm like, wow, like I want to get good just so I can like feel like I could belong on the same court as you. As for what I want to achieve in dodgeball, I really want to make dodgeball known. And, you know, this year might be my last year playing dodgeball. I may go, you know, maybe I'll help Elite record some more stuff. And, you know, even if it's delayed, like live streaming at a gym is a pain in the butt. I have a lot of respect for Mad City, what they did in Boston. They had a great setup, but live streaming in the gym, it is really a big pain. It is hard to record, or it's hard to live stream as a whole and like get it out there. But I feel like if I could tape the games and let players watch them later, I feel like it might help them and they might enjoy it. Even if it's not live, I feel like players would still watch it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a need for people, or a demand rather, to be able to watch you play, watch your team play, and then now, as teams are wisening up to this, to watch other teams play and study them. It blew my mind when Headhunters talked about how we're bringing back Mason Shank, allegedly, and Sean Wheeler said, "Oh, I learned so much from watching this guy, complete stranger, completely different timeline of dodgeball, and yet this kid was able to watch film of a once legend and learn from him. So I can imagine what footage is going to bring to the table as these teams get better and better and better, because they're studying each other and they're studying movements and characteristics and whatnot. So I think there's definitely be a need for that. Let me see.
I wish I had Team Davis was super nice to me when I first met them, and I wish I had footage to watch them and learn from them, because I always thought they were a great team together.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many past teams. It would be amazing to watch. Even just for fun, watching. We always joke about this one matchup that we had against the predecessors to Rise, and just how much dodgeball has evolved since then. I mean, I bet you even if you went back to your the radio tournament, you'd be looking at a bunch of kids that are just lost. What are you guys doing? That's not dodgeball. You guys have no idea how to actually play. So there's a lot of novelty there too, I'm sure.
I mean, I think there was a debate at some point or somewhere, looking at these NFL Pro Bowl players, yeah, they're athletes, but they don't know how to play dodgeball. They're just running around.
They're just as bad. Yep. Yeah, these are, peak of human fitness and pushing their bodies to the extreme limits, playing dodgeball they're a bunch of lost kids. Yeah, it's I see a definite need for more footage in the future, and I'm looking forward to it. But speaking of looking forward, what are you most looking forward to this year? I mean, how the heck do you even top last year compared to everything you've seen?
So I'm excited to actually get on the court. Even just meeting you, most players didn't know I even played dodgeball. They're like, "Oh, you play dodgeball?" I never played against you. Half of my friends have never even seen me play dodgeball. They're like, I don't think I've ever seen you play dodgeball. And so knowing all of the players now, being able to go and actually maybe even play against Rise or play against, a team in the North or the South that I met last year and filmed is really cool. Wrecking Balls from the South. They're like, "Oh dude, we'll take you on the team anytime, whenever you come out here."
Nice.
And I plan for 2019. My goal is to probably not go to as many tournaments as I did last year, but at least go to one in each round, and play.
So you're mostly looking forward to just being able to play again.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
I really am, because I've really missed that. And one of the things that are we doing? I don't think we're gonna do too many more questions. I think we did most of them.
I got two left for you.
What?
I got two left for you. So
you got two left. Well, I'm gonna. One of the things I wanted to say, watching dodgeball throughout this year, I learned a lot, and I want to say I wish I could have filmed and recorded the women more, because they are some incredible athletes, and I really I don't think we get to observe and see them enough to see how good they are. And I always tell people, I'm like, some of these women, I'd tell you to pick them over me. They're way better dodgeball players than I am. And I think that they often go overlooked, which is why I added Money Shot. I told Money Shot, you are 100% in this documentary. You are not getting cut. I may have to make a decision to cut some teams, but you are not getting cut, because I feel the women of the sport really drive the diversity and the family and the, to really show how well these players are. And, sometimes because Open is played at the same time as women's, we don't get to see that. And a lot of people are like, "Oh, well, why didn't you come take pictures of us?" I'm I was filming men's Open. I couldn't. I take pictures during co-ed. And, I really think that the women should get highlighted and a lot more props than they do.
Yeah, that's a really good point. There's a lot of should have, though, when we bring this up. And I wonder what's it can actually take to go from shoulda to it's being done. And I remember this, you kind of struck a chord, because when we talk about the recaps, a lot of the focus is on open, and whenever there's a open and women playing at the same time, it seems like it's still like the most focus and interest is going to be, and the most feedback and the most coverage is going to be open. So yeah, I mean, I think women dodgeball, like, it just adds such a crazy, awesome dynamic that is still grossly overlooked. And what I think is, when I look at sports and I look at how dodgeball varies, I love co-ed, and I think that's because, unless I'm completely ignorant, I cannot think of any other sport where women play alongside men and has just as much of a contribution to each other as opposed to over one another. Like, you see women throwing, you see them catching, you see them doing everything that the men are doing, and it's a team effort still, at least for the more competitive teams.
Definitely.
But yeah, how do you actually capture that, and how do you decide, okay, am I going to decide between open and women's? And yeah, a little bit of a tangent there, but yeah,
no, I mean, it's hard. Like, that was one of the things. Like, in the West, I had 3 teams I was covering, and so I had to like divvy up my time and try to plan out. I'm like, okay, strategy wise, how am I going to film these different things? And one of my friends, he came out, helped me for the LA. I had a whole bunch of friends come out for nationals, and I'm like, okay, I need someone on the women's court. I need someone filming this team. I need someone filming this team. And I actually ran back and forth between filming Rise and making sure I filmed Money Shot, because, at nationals, Money Shot had that, big comeback where they basically went straight to the losers bracket and battled their way all the way up into the finals. Like, that was exciting. Like, I was super excited and super proud of the women for not giving up on themselves and like really pushing forward and fighting back. And like, people may judge. Like, someone judged one time. I was talking to him. He's like, "Oh, I could probably catch all those women. They're probably not that good." I'm like, dude, come out to an elite. I guarantee you these women will kick your butt, and you'll see how good they are.
Get rocked, please. Yeah. One of my favorite memories, was playing. So I dated this girl named Jackie Thomas. I don't know if you've heard of that name by any chance.
No.
She was a freaking monster. So she was this little 5'4" terror of a female player, and she threw so dang hard. And I just remember when Arizona had the team, the Ball Busters. It was an all women's team. They were just rocking this team of bros that, probably saw a dodgeball tournament and they can, take on anybody and win. So when they line up against 6 women, they probably thought, oh, this is an easy win. And my God, did they turn up the heat immediately? And they were just like destroying these kids, these lost little boys. And it was hilarious. And I just remember Jackie just running after one guy, like just full, just crazy, ferocious, about to just throw a 60-mile-per-hour ball at this guy. And this guy's he just turns his back and runs and just screams, "She's coming!" And it was like the funniest thing in the world just to watch that. I was like, yeah, that's right. Like, it's not, just because you're a dude doesn't mean you're going to do any better or worse than, than the players here. So I love when people get rocked like that and get schooled.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, tangent there. Let's go back to, okay, so you said that you were, because I have 2 questions left.
Yes.
You have, you said you're looking forward to playing dodgeball again. What are you doing in the meantime to get ready, to get in shape? Like, you've got a lot of stuff in your head, but what about physically? What are you doing?
Physically, I haven't done as much. I've been starting to like eat healthier. Right now I'm on a no sweets, no cake, no cookies, and it's Girl Scout cookie season, which is very painful.
That's tough. That's tough,
yeah,
man.
I have a sweet tooth, and I love junk food, and I live in New York where pizza and bagels run supreme. Also, I am Team Taco. I'm going to make that loud and clear. I am Team Taco.
It's fine.
But like eating all of the carbs, and it's just not good. So I'm working on trying to count calories, and cut the weight and get back down to, I want to be the skinny Frankie and skinny Ketchum of 2019.
Isn't that crazy how much weight those two have lost? I mean, a lot of people are just slimming down, and it's awesome, but at the same time, it's like, well, there goes the advantage I had over those guys. Like,
yeah,
no, it's incredible. Yeah, I mean, those are good examples to work towards. Very inspiring.
Yeah, definitely, and that's pretty much what my goals are for this year. It's a lot. It's harder in New York, I feel, because it's so cold out, and it's like, ugh, I don't want to go to the gym. It's so cold. I don't want to, trek there, and it's so crowded. If I had like an empty gym, I'd probably be more, all right, let's do it. And I'm very cautious with running because I don't want to, like, my knee gets sore very easily. And so like just running in general is a little painful sometimes. So I'm like, ugh, this is not good. I need to, cut down so I can run and be used to this. Because if I'm going to play 8, 9, 10 hours of dodgeball in a day, I need to be way more prepared than I am right now.
Oh, absolutely. Especially if it's on the elite level. Like, it's just a requirement. You have to be able to hang. So
yeah,
you can't just chill in the corner anymore and, treat it like we would 10, 12 years ago. Okay, so this last question, you probably know it's coming. And I know we've covered a bunch of memories already, but what is like the most single best memory that you have to date? All things considered, what comes to mind that you just get like the biggest warm feeling from?
I'm going to go with my first championship with RoboCops.
Okay.
It was the craziest play which we did. It actually someone actually captured it on film, which I didn't think was going to happen, but somebody actually captured it. And I basically ran in front of one of my teammates. The ball, like, I went for the catch. It was 3 or 4v1. The ball popped up. Someone else knocked it, and then someone else caught it. And it was just like, it was our first time finally winning a championship, and like we just went crazy. And so that is probably my favorite dodgeball memory to date. That, and I won my own championships like in New York. But that is probably my number one favorite memory.
That's awesome. Yeah, you can't beat your first championship, I don't think. It's always going to be a great feeling.
Oh yeah.
Awesome. Well, very cool, man. Well, I mean, we're just edging past the 2-hour mark.
I'm sure we probably could have went longer if we talked more.
And that's why I got to stop myself now, because I know we could easily go into the 3-4 hours. I mean, it's funny because like some people did talk about like how they don't like how long these episodes are, but man, you could put pause or push pause and just let it accompany you for the whole week and just have Dominick in your head for a while. It's worth it. I mean, I feel like maybe we even covered 15% of what you can talk about. So I'd love to have you back on again.
Yeah, definitely. Once things get going, and I could definitely catch up with a recap, and maybe I could. We'll give the teaser of my new project that I'm working on.
I was gonna say, clue us in on not some spoilers, but just let us know you're up to some good things.
Oh yeah, well you know about it, but
Yep.
I can't fully talk about it yet. Not until it's ready to go. A few people know about it, but
can't anger them.
Definitely. I didn't give any like shout outs to all the people, but like shout outs to everyone who was super nice to me this year and
Sure.
Went out of their way to like thank me and come up to me, and it didn't go unnoticed. It was really appreciated, and everyone was really welcoming. I'm a huge fan of the dodgeball community, and I really appreciated all of the players coming up to me and thanking me and really appreciating everything. So
Awesome.
Props to all of you guys.
For sure, man. Well, again, man, thank you so much for hopping on, and we'll go ahead and stop the interview there. Alrighty, so that was what I feel a pretty awesome interview. Definitely was easier on getting the cobwebs out, talking to Dominick versus the recap. But yeah, I was definitely saving you for my season 3 opener, at least on the interview aspect, and I'm glad I did because my God, it's just so much to cover. I can't even imagine how much that we got out of you, considering everything that you've done last year. And I'm just more and more excited for the documentary. I also am glad that we were able to kind of talk a little bit more about the dodgeball community as a whole and not just the negativity that we see on Facebook. I know that that's definitely something that needs to be addressed, but at the same time, it definitely doesn't capture everyone. There's a lot of greatness that's going on within the community, and just be able to talk to somebody else that's producing content. I made the comment during the recap that it was pretty cool sitting in a room with Bill and Tyler and Joe, who are all taking it upon themselves to do something to give back to the community, and to be able to hear that echoed in this interview has been pretty awesome, because that's just what's going to make dodgeball that much better. And I know I say this all the time, but I truly mean it, and I'm probably going to harp on that until I am no longer doing the podcast. So that all being said, I did want to say thank you to everyone that submitted the questions, and thank you for some of the people that were reaching out to me, asking me when are you going to come back. I definitely enjoyed my month break, but I think I'll move that break to December this coming year. There's just so much to cover and so much to talk about. I really could have used January to plan, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. Also, huge thank you and shout out. I don't know if I'm going to use it this time, but thank you, FM84, for letting me use your music. I cannot wait to start experimenting with another opening and closing song. And so if you're listening to the new tune, please YouTube FM84. They are phenomenal, especially if you like the 80s synthwave movement that's going on. They are just rocking my world right now. But yeah, I guess that all being said, again, thank you everyone for your support as always. If you have feedback, questions, comments, let me know. Who would you like to see or hear rather on the upcoming episodes? I'll start posting my lineup, who I want to reach out to, and we'll go from there. So have a great rest of your Friday evening, a great weekend, and we'll catch you next time. And no, for real, dude, that even though those 2 hours, that flew right by. So
yeah, it did. I was like, oh man, it's midnight. Holy crap!
Oh crap! Yeah.
Hey, hopefully your editor will appreciate it. I don't think I cursed too much.
That should be one of the easiest things to edit. I think there's like 3 areas where we had to stop and I had to recount, but everything was fine. So
yeah, I think you cursed once.
I cursed after the fact and before, so I was good. It's sad that I'm becoming the more offensive one right now.